welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my custom LEGO T-800 Endoskeleton MOC. Well, to start off with, you can see the face. You just have this bar piece I used to have those kind of connections to the jaw that it has in the film, as well as this teeth piece, which is a stud, which is the only part that isn't grayscale on this entire build. You have a headlight brick for the eyes, as well as just this dome piece. The only part I don't like is the fact that it's a bit long in the back because of this rounded piece I used. So if I could find a way to make that a bit shorter, I will. You also just have that kind of neck part right there. And that's about it for the head. You have a wire going down from the back of there, but that really is not much there. Moving on to the body, you can see it's a kind of complicated build that I made. It's mainly just a mess of all these different bar pieces that I put in there. And then there's this kind of smooth part right there. But you can see that these parts of the arms move whenever you move the arms, which I like. And down from that, you just have some pretty simple other details down here where it smooths out a bit like it does in the film. And then right here, you have this technique that I used, where as you can see, there are these two bars, and then this kind of like vertebrae looking piece in the film, which is a Lego tube. I don't know the exact name of that piece, but the two bars right there are this connection I found where you can put a Lego flick fire missile piece into a ball joint, and it fits perfectly and it rotates around. So that's what I used there. And as you can see, that's not enough to support that, so around the back there is the kind of Lego window piece that I used for that. Moving down even more, you can see the arms, which are also kind of complicated. You have this binocular piece with two gun pieces on the end for the hand over here. All these parts just around this kind of joint right there, as well as just a ton of other random pieces I added for detail on it. And that's just connected right up there to the shoulder, pretty simply. It's basically the same on this other arm, but I have this gun piece, which I can detach and take a look at. As you can see, it's just a pretty simple build. There's not a whole lot of detail to it. This little grill part, when it's linked up, looks like the fingers of the hand. And other than that, if you want, I've made it so that there's still the binocular piece right there, so that if you don't want him holding the gun, you can attach two more gun pieces right in there for fingers, which ends up looking pretty good. It looks a lot more like something out of Terminator 1 than with the gun how it does in Terminator 2. Now that the gun is back and attached, we can move down to this kind of hip area, which is a pretty simple build. You have more of these curved pieces like I used for the jaw, just for some connections that are pretty simple, as well as this Lego shield piece just right there. You have a few more flick fire missiles for those kind of connections he has up to his pelvis, and as you go down, you can see you just have some more simple detail on the legs. You get down to the feet with the ball joint that it kind of has in the back for balance in the film, as well as this grill piece for toes, which I think looks pretty good. And it's the exact same build on the other leg, and they both have this stud right here is kind of like a hinge type thing between the legs. The legs and the arms just work pretty simply. You have the ball joint right there, and then right here you have just a pretty simple clip connection as well as down here, so you can really pose the legs in any way you want. And as I said, the same works with the arms because it has a connection up here and one here, so you can really pose it in like a whole lot of ways, you know. And both of those tie into this little piece I made down here, which allows you to pose him stepping on a skull, like you see in that one scene from the second movie, which I think is really cool. So we can take a really quick look at that piece right now. It's just a really simple kind of tan base with all these dots and studs all over it, like a rock right there, and this skull with a stud on top so you can put it right underneath his foot. It's a pretty nice and simple piece, which I think really adds a lot to the figure. Also, here's a quick view from the back. As you can see, it's really nothing special. There's just a ton of exposed studs. I have brought two other things in for reference, the first being my Lego Frankenstein figure. If you stand him up right next to him, is only about half the size of the Terminator. So I made this in the Universal Monsters video, and he's the tallest out of all of them, and he's still just absolutely outshined by the size of this figure. And I've also brought in the NECA Ultimate Part 8 Jason figure, who is 8 inches and still is not as tall as the Terminator. And for one more comparison, I've brought in the tallest NECA figure I own, which is the Big Chap Xenomorph, who still is about, I don't know, half an inch, maybe an inch shorter than the Terminator figure, which I think is just really cool. So, in that case, you might be wondering the exact height of this figure, and it's around 9.5 inches tall. His legs are bent a bit, so it's probably 9.5, almost exactly, almost 10 inches. So yeah, other than it being the most complex thing I've probably built at Legos, it's also the biggest. But yeah, that's about it for this figure. Thank you for watching until the very end of this video. If you liked it, maybe like and subscribe. But anyways, see you in the next video. Bye!